Commissioner Brendan Carr. We should also congratulate him that I understand that he and his wife have welcomed a recent new arrival to their household. So we're especially pleased that he was able to steal a few hours away from that home time and come and visit with us. So we are indeed thankful for that. And Commissioner Carr has been a strong ally at the FCC, and in particular is a real leader on infrastructure reform. His critical issues for all, this is critical issues for all competitive carriers. And he currently holds the record for the highest tower climb by any FCC commissioner in history. I think he's almost a half a mile. I mean, that's a serious climb. I'm sorry, I don't think I would be up there, commissioner or not. So, but I must admit, he will go to all lengths to understand the problems that we're trying to address on the infrastructure arena, and we thank him for that. He and his staff continue to do important work on behalf of American consumers, particularly regarding the job creation and other competitive issues like access to spectrum, telehealth, public safety initiatives, and we are indeed delighted to have him with us today. And gentlemen, without further discourse on his outstanding accomplishments for all of us, let's welcome Commissioner Brendan Carr.
Thanks, Steve.
How are you doing?
Doing good. Great to see you.
I'm sorry we don't have anything for you to climb, but
oh, I know, that's right.
You can climb the podium.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Steve. It's so great to be back with you all at CCA. I actually gave my very first speech as an FCC Commissioner in 2017 at the CCA conference just outside of Dallas, which was great for me. It was Cowboys territory. Even as a Redskins fan, it was okay. And then I made the next year in South Florida, Miami Dolphins territory. I'm an NFC East guy, no big deal, that's fine. But Steve, being up here in New England, in Patriots territory, the fact that I made the trip here to join you really shows how much I appreciate you guys and everything that I'm willing to do. In fact, this morning I went on a local radio station over in Putnam, Connecticut, carries all the Patriot games. And then I decided to sort of lead with the chin a little bit there. On air this morning, I told them there's only one thing that I dislike more than robocalls, which is the New England Patriots. So that went over very well, and it set up for some very friendly call-in conversation. But in all seriousness, it is great to be up with you all again. You all do so much amazing work bringing next-generation wireless connectivity to rural communities throughout the country. And it was great to have Commissioner Starks here providing some remarks. It's been wonderful to have him on the commission. It's great to finally have another commissioner that appreciates the Kansas City Chiefs as much as I do. We haven't had that on the commission up till now, so it's great to have at least a second commissioner on the commission that enjoys the Chiefs as much as I do. But in all seriousness, it's been great to have Starks here. He's doing it exactly right. You know, he has spent almost as much time as possible doing what I think you have to do in jobs in DC, which is to get out of DC. I don't know how many cities and states he's already been to in short order, but he's getting out there. He's hearing directly from the community leaders and the people that are impacted by our policies. I want to commend him for that. That's, exactly the way I think you have to do this job. Cut out the lawyers of lobbyists and lawyers between us and the people on the ground. No offense to Steve and his great team, but hearing directly from the people we regulate, there's really no substitute. So I think he's doing fantastic work on the commission already, and look forward to all of his contributions to come. When I gave that first speech at CCA in 2017, I talked about 3 top priorities for me: infrastructure, spectrum, and workforce development issues. And in the intervening time period, I think we've made some significant progress at the FCC in engaging in regulatory reform across all of those. And I think thanks to the efforts that you all are doing, we're seeing really tremendous results. After all, for me, the finish line when we talk about 4G, when we talk about 5G, is to make sure every single community in the country gets a fair shot at this. The finish line for me is not the first time New York gets 5G or San Francisco gets 5G or even when San Jose gets 5G. There's thousands of other communities. It's the communities that you all live in, it's communities you all serve, that have to be front and center at the FCC, because those are the places, those are the thousands of places where regulatory reform truly matters. If we get it right, we can flip the business case and make it economical for you all to serve those communities. If we get it wrong, it makes it so much harder for you to do their work. In spending time in these communities, what I've learned on the road, is the biggest job creators, the biggest employers in these communities, whether it's a dairy farm in Minnesota or a manufacturing plant in Elkmont, Alabama, those job creators wouldn't be in those communities today if they didn't have access to next generation infrastructure. And that's the wireless service that you're providing, and it's the fiber that connects all of these hundreds of thousands of new cell sites that are going up. When I was at that CCA conference, I talked about taking a lead at the FCC on those infrastructure issues to make sure that we had a modernized, streamlined approach. And spending time in the field since then has only underscored that. I've had the chance, as Steve indicated, to spend a lot of time with the tower techs, with the telecom crews that are out there trenching, pulling conduit, doing the tough, hard, gritty work that's needed to actually get next-gen connectivity. There's so many, I think, Americans that flip on their smartphone and they just assume that it's magic or pixie dust that makes all of this high-speed connectivity happen. But you all know the other side of that story. You know the dirt that has to be turned, the towers that have to be climbed, the antennas that have to be aligned to make all this work. And what I found is that DC had not been a great partner for you. There was too much red tape, too much cost, too much permitting. And the team at CCA really in DC played a lead role in translating that back into Washington. So Steve, Courtney, Alexi, Tim, they've done a great service to the organization in putting your views and your positions up front and center. And that's helped us get some pretty significant reforms. We took a look, for instance, at the federal environmental and historic preservation rules that apply to the build out of this infrastructure. And what we found is that those rules were outdated. They may have made sense for big 300, 400-foot macro towers built years and years ago, but they didn't make sense for this next-gen infrastructure we needed, particularly small cells. So we engaged in a number of reforms, including eliminating entirely the upfront fees that had been charged in the environmental and historic preservation process, fees that had been escalating significantly in the last couple of years and were projected to get even higher. So we cut those fees out of the process. We took a look at the state and local review process, particularly in the communities around rural America. I talked to county commissioners, local mayors. They said, we want these new cell sites. We want next generation connectivity. But so much of the build out was being held up by exorbitant fees and long processes and a handful of big must-serve cities. So we built on the common sense ideas that were put in place already by a number of states and local governments. Reasonable caps on fees, accelerated timelines to get these approval process going, reasonable rules around aesthetic requirements. We got that decision across the finish line. It's now in effect. And we're seeing, thanks to our efforts to get the government out of the way and your efforts to build out, we're seeing phenomenal results across the country. So even if you just look at small cells, 2017, there was about 13,000 small cells built out in the country. That number jumped in 2018 to over 60,000, and we're now on track to have a total of 200,000 small cells built out across the country. When you look at the fiber side, connecting all these new sites, we had more miles of fiber built last year than ever before. Internet speeds in the US are up 40%. And the US right now has the world's largest 5G build. We had 14 cities that went live last year. We have about 33 communities that are live with 5G today. And we're projected to have over 42 or so communities with commercial 5G by the end of this year. Again, that's going to be unmatched right now in terms of 5G build. So the regulatory structures matter. On the spectrum side, we've been working on this all of the above approach, and we have so far been able to free up more spectrum in the US than any other country in the world. And we have engaged in a process of looking at low band, mid band, and high band spectrum. A month or two ago, we voted on the 2.5 gigahertz band to try to create more opportunities in that mid band of spectrum. We're voting later this month on 3.5 gigahertz and scheduling an auction for that spectrum for June of 2020, free up more mid-band spectrum there. But I think you all know better than most that 5G is not a mid-band play alone, despite some of the talking points that seem to be circulating in DC these days. If we want to get the true 5G experience, if we want to get next-gen services built out in every community, we've got to make it over all 3 spectrum bands, and that's what we're doing. For rural America, for wide propagation of 5G, we need to put that on low band spectrum. That's going to get us 50 plus megabits per second on the farms and ranches and other communities today that right now may have 0. We got to get millimeter wave spectrum out there. That's going to get true fiber-like speeds for a lot of communities. In fact, some of the initial 5G deployments we're seeing right now are using this millimeter wave spectrum for the first time to give families a sense of choice. A lot of Americans feel like they have one or no choice for high-speed home internet. And with these new 5G offerings on millimeter wave, they're getting gigabit speeds delivered wirelessly, and they feel like they have choice and competition for in-home broadband, and that's a great thing. And then, of course, mid-band spectrum as well is going to be a key piece of this. But in the US, we're using all 3 spectrum bands. If you look at China, for instance, their initial deployments are on low and mid-band, which means they're not getting the same speeds over their 5G builds as what we're going to get here in the US. So we're on the right track on that front. I think looking forward, the C-band is another important opportunity for us. I've spoken a little bit about my position on the C-band. I think it's a great opportunity for us to augment our mid-band spectrum case. I've said before, I think we need to clear at least 200 megahertz of C-band spectrum. I think we need to make sure we get some money back to the US Treasury for repurposing this spectrum for terrestrial flexible use. And we need to have a transparent process that we can all have confident that everyone had a fair shot during the process. And that continues to be my view today. I'm really not interested at this point on any C-band proposals that don't get us at least 200 to 300 or more megahertz of spectrum. I think on infrastructure, we also have continuous work that we can do. There's been some petitions that have been filed at the FCC looking at some additional relief, including around Section 6409 of the Spectrum Act. Among other things, I think that can go a long way in making it easier to upgrade and build out the macro sites that are going to be used for low-band 5G that are going to make such a difference in bringing 5G to so many of the communities that you all served. So I anticipate getting public feedback and comment on those petitions and would encourage you to make your views known in that proceeding. And so while we've been engaging in all of these reforms, while we've been seeing these great results, the significant uptick in builds around the country, it's really created a new challenge and a new opportunity, which ties back to that idea of workforce development. How do we make sure that we have the skilled workforce in place to build out these networks? And I've had the chance, as was noted, to spend a lot of time with these tower techs. And a lot of this time on the roads, it's been in areas served by CCA members. I've been in the Shenandoah Valley to the Mississippi Delta, to the bluegrass of Kentucky, to the big sky country of Montana, visiting with CCA members, talking with the crews that are actually building out these networks. And to a person, they tell me that they could essentially double the workforce needed to build out this infrastructure. If you just look at tower techs alone, we have about 29,000 tower techs in the country today, and industry estimates that the industry could absorb another 20,000 workers almost immediately to complete this massive build of 5G infrastructure. So one challenge that you have is we've got a really good economy. We've got low unemployment. We've got competition to build out these networks. And so it's difficult to get the workforce in place to do that. So I laid out a jobs initiative a couple months ago. It looks to community colleges to create a pipeline of 5G workers. And it's modeled after a program that I visited in Aiken, South Carolina. You can essentially go into a community college with 0 skills, and through a 7, 8, or 12-week course, you can come out with a baseline skill set to find a job in the tower industry. And remember, as you know, these are solidly middle-class jobs. These are good-paying jobs with pretty clear, pretty quick trajectories to moving up in that industry and getting 6-figure income. So not only is it a great story in terms of helping to build it out, it's a great story of thousands of families that can use this infrastructure build to lift their own family up into the middle class. So we're looking to expand on those community college programs. A week or two ago, I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I was meeting with the community college there, Southeast Tech. And right now, they're in the process of looking at standing up a similar program there in partnership with a local tower company that has their own practice facility adjacent to the community college. And so we're looking for ways to continue to build, to have a handful of these community college programs around the country to help fill in that skills gap and put out more 5G workers. And so as we look at all of this, you look at the numbers, you look at the jobs, there's sort of a bigger picture here as to why we're all doing this. And I think you all get it better than anybody. You live in your communities. You see the opportunity that connectivity brings to schools. You see the jobs that it creates. But you also see the healthcare and telehealth benefits that come from next-gen connectivity. And I want to spend just a second talking about that. I was with a CCA member, C Spire, in the Mississippi Delta about a year or two ago. Went to a small town called Ruleville, which is in Sunflower County. And it's where I met a woman named Miss Annie. And Miss Annie noticed the first signs of diabetes when she woke up one morning with blurred vision. She tried going through traditional care methods and wasn't seeing much progress. So the local community clinic there had partnered with C Spire, and they put her in a remote patient monitoring program. She was sent home with an iPad and a Bluetooth-enabled blood glucose monitor, and she walked me through it. Her iPad would chime in the morning, she would prick her finger, it would automatically register her A1C level, and it would give her instant feedback on the iPad about what to do that day. Eat this, don't eat this. Exercise this way. She saw a dramatic reduction in her A1C levels, and she said she never felt better. And from that experience, we plugged into this broader trend that it's a part of in healthcare. And effectively in healthcare, we're seeing a shift that's the equivalent of moving from Blockbuster Video to Netflix. You no longer have to go to a brick and mortar facility to receive high quality care. For a lot of conditions, in particular chronic conditions like diabetes, there are apps, connected devices right on your smartphone, tablet, or home that you can use remotely to address these conditions. We're seeing significant savings in the healthcare system from it, and obviously dramatic increases in quality of life. So we're now looking to build on that at the FCC. We recently issued a notice of proposed rulemaking to look to fund some of these connected care pilot programs, and I invite all of you to participate in that proceeding to figure out the best way that we can replicate the success that your CCA members already had in the Delta and take that more places around the country. So again, I just want to thank you for having me out here. Thank you for the hard work that you all do every single day to connect your communities, the communities you're connected with. And I hope that you find that in DC we are a good partner for you. We're trying to get unnecessary regulations out of the way and clear the path for you all to connect your communities. And we've heard loud and clear from you some steps we need to take to do that, and look forward to continuing to make additional progress. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. And say good wishes to your wife.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As you can see, we not only appreciate Brendan Carr's work at the FCC, but he's the most knowledgeable person in DC on infrastructure. And thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Okay, before we break, we have a few brief announcements. Again, please take a moment to fill out the keynote evaluations on the mobile app. It only takes a minute, and we really do appreciate your feedback. And remember, there's money out there to be had for those people that actually utilize the app. No repeat winners, so everyone is free to try your best to be the next winner. Now, just a quick reminder that the exhibit hall opens at 1:30, and there will be various sponsored seminars throughout the afternoon, and there are some very interesting discussions planned there, and I encourage you to check those seminars out. And please join us back at the exhibit hall at 4 p.m. for happy hour. It's the perfect opportunity to meet new industry contacts, enjoy some good company. And free drink tickets. Remember, you got free drink tickets by those people sponsoring the free drinks. That's Device Bits, WGI Telecom, and PlayOn. Go there to get your free drink tickets. There'll be some red balloons over their facilities there. So look for the red balloon, go get a drink ticket, and enjoy meeting some new sponsors of our CCA events. So thank you all for coming. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a good evening. See you on the exhibit hall.